Hi everyone, I'm Autistic Ange. This is a podcast for adults who recently found out they're autistic and are looking for other autistic people like them. Today, I am going to talk about my problems with communicating. I've touched on this a bit already, but I'll go more into depth because, if you haven't figured it out already, I struggle with this. And, communication is what so many autistic people struggle with. So now that I know this, I don't feel quite as bad about my struggles in this area. So apparently I was nonverbal for the first 3 years of my life. This was completely lost on me until I figured out I'm autistic, and the conversations I'd overhear of my mother telling her friends on the phone about it came flooding back. How the hell did I just block that out? How did I not? I don't know. That was weird. But yeah, there were 2 times I recall overhearing her on the phone telling someone. At the time, I was too afraid to ask because it was pretty toxic growing up. So, yeah. So I have no idea how I started talking, any of that. And I really, really wish I knew. It's a developmental thing. I know that now. But still, why the fuck couldn't I talk? I knew how to scream real good, which served me well, even in adulthood until it didn't. Because adults shouldn't really be screaming. So communication can be very difficult for me the majority of the time. I had never realized this. I kind of did, but not really. I was aware on a conscious level that I could not articulate what I needed to at times. For example, I'll be trying to explain something to my wife, but I can only get out half the words. And then I ask her, do you know what I mean? I'll say half of, I can only say half of what I'm trying to say. And then she almost always knows what I am really, you know what I mean? I can't even fucking talk now. This is ridiculous. Oh my God. But yeah, she's the only person that usually knows what I'm trying to say. Thank goodness. When I used to be a chemical dependency counselor, which I did for several years, I was totally in my realm. I was an eloquent speaker. I rarely forgot shit. I was always prepared for group and individual sessions. I was, quote, normal in how I interacted with people. And that's the only time in my life I can recall not having communication issues. I did outside of that, at home and stuff, but while I was on the job, I was excellent the majority of the time. I don't understand that. I did really like what I was doing, but I've liked other things as well and still had issues with speaking. So it's so weird, but I don't know. I will never understand that. Why I was able to hold conversations, go back and forth. I didn't blank out. I was prepared. Not anymore. So here are some examples, other examples, I guess, of problems with communicating. So as I'm doing these episodes, prior to recording, I've already typed out bullet points so I don't forget the things I want to touch on, because that's the only way I'll remember. I feel like an airhead. Why does my short-term memory suck so bad? And has it always been like this and I just didn't know? And one of the things I dislike the most is when I'm telling someone about something and an hour later I remember that there were 2 other things I wanted to say, and then I go into this weird kind of thinking where it's well, shit, she would have understood me better if I'd said this too. I struggle to say certain words, autistic. I don't know, autistic. Do you know how many times, like, I start the episode, I start recording, and I have to stop and re-record because I say artistic? Like, it comes out like artistic. I don't know why this word is so hard for me, because I am it. I am autistic. Neurodiverse. I mean, I can say them. I can say these words, but I cannot use them on a regular basis because it's hard. I don't know how else to say that. Like, they just don't want to come out of my mouth properly. I can't use them in, like, everyday conversation. That's why I call neurodiverse people ordinary people, because ordinary is easier for me to say. Oh, shit, I need some water. Sorry about all this additional noise. How about, like, detail? Sometimes, well, I guess I should say most times I provide too much detail because it's important. Like, I feel like, how am I going to get my point across? Do you see what I mean? Excuse me once again. Across, seriously. But yeah, like, I provide way too much detail. Because I think that, like, people should know all the details to fully understand something, and then, like, really not realizing that it's probably just me that needs all the details. So I assume that everybody else does too. Because I can't tell you how many times people have been like, I really didn't need to know all that stuff. Or, hey, just get to the point. Yep, I'm one of those people. Yeah. There's rarely any time I provide too little detail. Yeah, I feel like I'm short-circuiting when I'm trying to say something. So, yeah, like now, like I mentioned before, it's like sticking my finger in a socket, like, like, I seriously, when I try to talk, do you know, like, it, especially when I'm anxious, frustrated, like, really anything intense, even, like, when I'm, like, really happy, like, I will struggle to form a fucking sentence, and it is so embarrassing. It is so embarrassing. And when I found out, like, 4 or 5 months now ago that I am autistic, like, every time I talked, I noticed, like, I knew I did not know how to talk. And it's like, it was almost like a catch-22 with this kind of awareness. Like, yeah, I'm very glad that I know what the fuck is going on with my communication now. But also, holy shit, now I am hearing myself all the time and how I sound, and is this really what I have sounded like my entire life? Like, just, it was craziness. I mean, I'm a little bit more accepting of it now, but, like, that's why I was struggling to, like, decide, do I do a podcast or not? Because I can barely talk. And who wants to listen to somebody just stutter their way through an episode? So I tried to figure out, like, what would work with me, which is, like, making sure I have bullet points that I can refer to that keeps me on track. So yeah. Let's see. I reread every single text before I send it, no matter who it's to, just to make sure everything is spelled properly and I'm using good grammar. Because, like, I'm old, so I don't really use too many emojis or things like BTW, or I don't know, like, I like full actual sentences, which when I get texts from other people, they're so short and they lack context. Like, they don't even have fucking periods at the end. Like, I don't know how to understand this one sentence that somebody texted me. Like, they sound like they're rude, but are they meaning to be rude? Like, did I do something wrong? Like, so I get one, like, a sentence, and I will create an entire story about what that sentence could mean. Like, it's just a fucking rabbit hole, and I would totally appreciate it If people would just take the fucking time, there's that thing on the text where like you can record your text. You don't even have to type the whole thing. Can't you just hit record and give me all the detail I need to understand what it is you're trying to tell me? Or like, is that very high maintenance? Maybe I shouldn't like, that's, maybe I shouldn't expect like everybody to text like I text or want them to text. So stupid. When I think I mentioned this before, but when I used to take time off when I worked for other people, I would write down what I would record into my voicemail message so I didn't forget anything. And so I sounded like a, quote, normal person, because I seriously could not do it. I had tried so many times to just record like a 30-second, I'm going to be out of the office, from this day to this day. Please contact so-and-so at this number if you have any questions. Like, I could not just say that. I couldn't pick up the phone and record it off the cuff. I had to write it all down and then do it that way. I don't know if anybody else does this. I would like to think that I'm not the only one. But yeah, like this is a lot of the stuff I did not even tell my wife for the longest time. And if this is like the first episode you're listening of this, or like maybe you didn't go in order and like you're noticing I'm talking a lot about my wife, it's just because, like she's the person in my life. So yeah, go back and listen to some of those episodes if you want. But let's see. Oh, I struggle with communicating with clients on Upwork, that platform that I'd mentioned I work on. Like, oh my God, I've been doing this for years and I still have such a hard time. Like, even with my regular clients, like when they, like, do I have to say something every time they say something to me? Like I'll go, like, I'll turn something in and I'll be like, here you go. And then they'll come back with, thank you so much. Like, and then I'm like, do I say you're welcome? Like, they didn't say that to me the last time, but they did the time before when I said that, so like, it's really stupid shit like this, but it gets me all worked up. Like, I fucking freak out. Like, I have anxiety about this a lot, like, because I don't want to be rude. And I also, like, I don't know. I think one of the biggest issues is, like, I do not feel like I'm being very authentic in these messages I'm exchanging. Because, like, for example, one of the guys that sends me regular work, he constantly uses, like, emojis, like smiley faces, like, because, and I understand it's, you're wanting to try to sound as friendly as possible and those help. But now I feel compelled, and I do actually do this every time I write him back with something, I put a fucking smiley face. Like, one time I didn't, and I was like, oh God, is he gonna think that was so rude? Like, I was in such a bad mood, like he offended me in some way. Like, does this even make sense? Like, I don't get this part. Like, why can't I just be a normal person and know when to respond and when not to respond? Did I say too much in my message to the person that only writes me like 2 sentences? Like, I don't know. I really just don't like this. I don't know how I'm ever going to get better at it. I don't know. And my wife is so you see what I mean? Wait, neurodiverse. Wait, neurodiverse are not ordinary people? Why did I say that earlier? What are the fucking ordinary people called? Oh, neurotypicals. Do you see what I mean? Oh my God. I can't even fucking like use two of the most used words in this context. Okay. I'm really thinking about just like deleting this. Like, do I continue? What the fuck, man? Yeah, so neurotypical people are what I refer to as ordinary, not neurodiverse. Anyways, my wife is neurodiverse. So, back to what I was saying. So like if I ask her, like, does this sound right or should I say this? Sometimes she doesn't know either, which kind of makes me feel a little bit better, but also still keeps me stuck. Yeah, anyways, I really don't know. I can't get over that I used neurodiverse and neurotypical in the wrong way. Anyways, okay. I'll just continue. People have probably clicked off by now and I'm talking to myself anyways. Okay, asking for what I want or need can be difficult. Oh, God. It's like, can't you just do something and be nice? Like, just do something and don't, like, ask me if I need it done. Like, I'd like it to be done. Like, scooping the cat boxes, for example. Who the fuck enjoys doing that? But that's, like, what I do. That's, like, my daily chore. And sometimes I just really don't feel like doing it. And I will struggle to ask, like, can you just scoop the cat box? And I just wish that, like, can you just read my mind? Or can you just offer it out of the generosity of your heart instead of, like, me having to ask? Like, I know this stems from childhood, like, I was always told no, like, what you need and what you want are not important. So, like, this has always been very difficult for me. But I am getting better at it. But yeah, appointments, like, I kind of talked about this before, like, when I go to, like, the dentist or the doctor, like, I don't want to have a conversation with you about anything other than, like, what I'm there for. So let's just talk about what I'm here for and keep it at that. Like, my doctor, I have to go to the VA. Well, I don't have to, but, like, it's free. Why not? I'm a veteran. That's what it's there for. And so, like, I have this doctor and she's really good. She's a nice lady, but I don't like going to see her because she just wants to talk about all kinds of other stuff and I don't. And then I'm sitting there like, well, I have to talk to her like this because it's rude if I just give one word answers. Like, do you know how much time I could save in these appointments if they would just only talk about what I'm there for? And then I can just leave instead of waste all this extra time. Like, I hate that. Like, when I used to, my wife cuts my hair now. She's been doing it for a decade about. But before that, when, like, I would go and other people would cut my hair, like, they would sit there and they can see you in the mirror and you can see them. And, they'd be like, oh, so, like, how was your weekend? Like, I don't want to fucking tell you. I don't know you. Just cut my hair. Like, I'm paying for you to cut my hair. Not talk to me. Like, I'm okay sitting in silence. Like, am I a bitch? Am I still a bitch? Like, I don't know. Probably. But, I mean, come on. Like, I used to work when I was in college at places like Family Dollar, like, as a cashier, which I hated because I struggled with numbers anyways. And people and social skills and all that stuff, but, like, sometimes people would just be like, oh, you seem like you're in a bad mood. And I'm thinking, how? I'm smiling and I'm being polite to you. Why? Is it because I don't want to engage in, like, conversation? Like, just scan your fucking toothbrush and pay for it and leave. Like, well, I'll scan it and you pay for it and leave. But, like, I don't care for stuff like that. Like, I don't know you. I'm probably never going to see you again. I don't understand interactions like that. Which I guess rolls into I'm just about always too blunt. Well, am I? Maybe now I am. I didn't used to be because I was trying to, like, soften the blow when I was telling somebody something truthful about themselves. Like, I just feel like I've held a lot back throughout my life for fear of hurting someone's feelings. Like, when what I was about to say was true about them anyway. Like, like, there were periods, like, in my 20s and stuff where I didn't give a fuck about confrontation. I was all for it. I said exactly what was on my mind. I didn't care about how the other person felt. I was just, like, a cold-hearted asshole. So I've had periods of those. That's gone. Because I don't like confrontation anymore. I'm, like, the exact opposite. But, like, I have never, like, understood why people try to sugarcoat things or butter their bread, as they call it. Because, like, I get it. Like, people are sensitive. I'm a sensitive person, but, like, I really appreciate when somebody just tells me the truth when I ask for it and just use a little tact and be nice when you deliver it. You know, like, why do people get all butthurt about that stuff? Yeah, I don't know. Like, is that a communication issue, or is that more like social skill stuff? Or is that the same thing? You know, I feel like I'm just saying things now and none of it's is it any of it making sense? I'm not high, by the way. I'm not. I'm normal. I mean, not normal. I don't know if that's the right word to use. Do you see what I'm talking about with communicating? Like, how do people understand me? I gotta go now, because if you're still listening, congratulations, man. Like, how'd you get this far? I would have, like, probably clicked off, like, 19 minutes ago. But hey, thanks if you got this far. And, yeah, do you struggle with communication? Can anybody, like, give me some of those stories? Email me. Make me feel better about my shit. Okay, now I'm having a hard time even coming up with anything else to say. No, okay, well, this means I should probably go. Okay, so yeah, this is just me recording into an app on my phone. I hope people find me and listen and understand, you know, and relate, and maybe have, like, you know, the same experience I did when I heard myself on somebody else's podcast for the first time. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.